Hi everyone, I'm Zen, your astrologer, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of April 26, 2021. We have an extremely intense sky playing out all throughout the week. There is a huge concentration of fixed energy. Well, first of all of these planets in the sign of Taurus, one of the most notorious fixed earth signs. Then, at the very beginning of the week, we have this super full moon in the sign of Scorpio, another fixed sign. We have Saturn and Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, yet another fixed energy. And all of this is happening under the Saturn and Uranus square, a celestial conversation which I speak about in all of my horoscopes. This is the power of radical change, our value system, basically the energy imprint of 2021, but in moments when these energies are activated, very reactive, well, you can imagine that it is that much more dominant, it is that much more action oriented, both individually and also collectively. One of the planets which is really hyper this week is Uranus, because as Uranus holds the square with Saturn, it is going to hold a conjunction, meet in the sky with Mercury, with Venus, and of course with the Sun. Its conjunction with Mercury and Venus was exact this week, yet still, both of these planets are still very close to Uranus at the time of this super full moon, so it is going to be extremely intense. And just think about it, Mercury, the planet of the mind, it is our thoughts, our communication, our plans, our methodology, our modus operandi. Venus, extremely emphasized in her home sign of Taurus, everything that we love, our values, matters of the heart, love, relationships, currency, money, finances, and even beauty and artistic expression. And then, of course, we have the Sun, which is the light of our consciousness, it is our identity, it is basically who we are. So these parts of our being, of the self, parts of our soul, are going to be shocked, energized, shaken up deeply by Uranus, and they're also squaring Saturn. Saturn, which is stability, structures, rules, laws, traditions, our fixed ideas. And as I said, the big picture of the Saturn and Uranus square is out with the old and in with the new. But of course, all of this is happening all throughout 2021, and the even bigger picture is until 2026 when Uranus exits the sign of Taurus. But it is next week which is going to be a key moment when this extremely powerful Uranus is going to be in the spotlight, mentally, communication-wise, regarding emotions, values, money, finances, self-worth, the conjunction with Venus. And since it is standing across the super full moon, well, it is going to be an extremely powerful time for revelations, everything that has to do with the hidden, with the concealed, even with our unconscious, everything that we have repressed. So it is both a psychological energy, but at the same time, both Taurus and Scorpio have very much to do with money, finances, currencies, shared resources. So that also represents that, especially from a global collective perspective, the world stage is definitely going to be deeply shaken to its very core regarding financial matters and everything that has to do with values, value systems, money, transactions. And there is definitely going to be a battle because Saturn in the sign of Aquarius can represent all of the value systems and even, banks, world economy, all of the rules and regulations and customs which governed it until now, the way things always used to play out, the way things always used to find resolution, etc. But this is where the big shock, the big surprise comes, triggered by that Uranus, perhaps something totally new and revolutionary regarding finances, values, money, currency, cryptocurrency, is going to show its first signs of existence, but not just as a new idea or as a potential, but it will gain ground very quickly, unexpectedly. But at the same time, Uranus is chaos. Something can also crash unexpectedly, like this is just for the sake of example. The Bitcoin, well, it is revolutionary, it is the thing of the new, but it's not that new. People were already working with it for quite some time now, and that may crash unexpectedly, and something totally different but similar to it, another cryptocurrency, let's say, will take the dominance or the lead. Now, another way this super full moon can play out on the world stage, well, this is quite physical, this is quite earthly, so to speak, because Uranus in the sign of Taurus is the physical earth, the ground that we walk on, and Uranus is magnetism, Uranus is chaos, and a super full moon means that the moon is that much closer to the earth, physically speaking, so it has a greater pull on the tectonic plates. So that kind of equals seismic activity, earthquakes, tsunamis, unusual weather phenomenon, and massive spikes, ups and downs in the Schumann resonance. So chances are that there are gonna be a lot of earthquake reports. There is going to be a lot of movement in the crust of the earth, perhaps even volcanic eruptions. And last but not least, this energy is profoundly psychological. Scorpio is all about the psyche, especially the hidden and darker corners of it. And Taurus, well, its value system, especially with its ruling planet Venus in it, and that is also a psychological, emotional energy, let's say. So it will be time for revelations, shocks, surprises, epiphanies, secrets coming out. And what secrets coming out on the world stage can represent, well, I don't think I need to talk about that because it is extremely clear. Scorpio, it can be the results of investigations, it can be disclosures, it can be us simply reaching certain conclusions about secrets in the world, on the world stage, our own personal investigations becoming crystal clear for us. But of course, there is also a very positive side to this, because, clarity and the truth being revealed, Uranus is always the truth. Uranus is basically objective reality, as objective as it can possibly get. So you can imagine that will also cause a lot of unrest. It will cause a lot of strife, a lot of ideological clashes, battles. But we are already used to this, so this isn't anything new that I'm telling you. And even though in itself we cannot look at it as something negative, because it is a world change. But in these moments when we're really caught up in it, all of us, one way or another, well, it won't feel very easy, it won't feel very positive, it will feel like a massive crisis, and especially with Uranus so active, shocking, profoundly unsettling. So this might be the most uncomfortable part of this energy. But the positive side is that this Scorpio super full moon is all about other kind of secrets reaching daylight. For example, groundbreaking archaeological discoveries. Discoveries about ancient civilizations, the results of scientific research. It can also involve paleontology, like the dinosaurs and creatures long extinct. It can also involve like For example, the discovery of certain religious texts or ancient tomes or hieroglyphs, etc. So that part of this energy can be shocking in quite a positive way, because knowledge is power after all. But yet perhaps this can also lead to a different kind of energy, because at the time of this full moon, this super full moon, the ruling planet of Scorpio, Pluto, is standing still in the sky preparing to go retrograde. So it means extreme intensity. And when Pluto is extremely intense, well, it can also mean religious fixations, religious dogmas. And if archaeological discoveries have a lot to do with religion, well, people are not going to be very receptive to it, especially if it changes something which was taken for granted for like hundreds and hundreds of years. Also, another effect of this very intense stationary Pluto ruling the sign of Scorpio, it is power struggle, power games. We want to reclaim our powers, and in certain cases that might not be as easy as just a psychological change or transformation, because Scorpio is also resources that we share with others, a lot of things that we basically share with others, and it can have something to do with contracts, agreements, what was promised, a link between two people, or a person and a group organization. For example, a debt, mortgage, etc. So basically we owe the bank, we owe someone, or perhaps the other way around, someone owes us but is not able to give it back. So we might want to reclaim our powers, for example, financially, to give us extra freedom, but we might come across obstacles and limitations. But Uranus is a revolutionary energy, and since it stands across the sky from Scorpio, there is also some kind of solution. Maybe a little bit extreme, maybe unusual, maybe it takes out of our comfort zone, or the square with Saturn, an extra effort, extra time, extra sacrifice, but there is gonna be solution. So we will actually be able to reclaim our powers, regardless if that is psychological, if that is even spiritual, if that is in a relationship, for example, a divorce, or financially, but it's not going to be very easy, and it's going to be, very unsettling, very emotionally super hyperactive, if that makes sense, because it's a full moon and a super full moon. So regardless in which sign that takes place, it still triggers us, it still pulls everything to the surface. And since Scorpio is murky water, it is polluted water, so to speak, so it will stir up all the pollution inside of us, if that pollution is emotional. And we might be confronted, like it or not, to look at ourselves, to look at what is deep inside of us, as ugly, as uncomfortable, as shocking as it may be. The only way we can transmute it, and the only way we can turn it into power and freedom, is if we process it and if we accept the truth that, well, the not so pleasant things are also part of who it is that we are. Like, for example, jealousy, and jealousy can be so hidden. We might not ever think about ourselves as someone who is jealous, someone who is envious, someone who is vengeful, someone who is toxic. That might be totally invisible because it's under the surface. But sometimes it takes a mirror to reflect that is also part of us, and that can be quite painful to acknowledge and to accept that, well, yes, I can be extremely toxic, I can be extremely jealous, possessive, manipulative, I can twist and turn the truth in a relationship or in any situation in life so that it serves me and my truth. And chances are all of this theme is going to be an active part of our lives, like it or not. And because it stands across the sky from Uranus, well, there is not going to be any mercy. This energy will not going to be gentle. The way I look at it is, Medusa the Gorgon, whose very gaze could turn anyone to stone, will not really be overjoyed when someone holds a mirror to her. Sometimes maybe Medusa will turn to stone from her own gaze if she's not prepared, if it comes as a surprise. But the biggest potential in this super full moon, especially with Pluto and also Mars, the co-ruler of Scorpio, being in the sign of Cancer. And in the sign of Cancer, yes, it is emotional vulnerability. Yes, it is passive aggressiveness. Yes, it is like putting on the shell, the protective carapace from an emotional and psychological perspective. And Mars trines this moon in Scorpio at the time of the full moon. The trine is not exact. It is barely a trine, yet the energy is there. So that gives us the opportunity to reach clarity, to reach peace, to reach emotional stillness by confronting our own ugliness, accepting it and transmuting it. And this can be one of the biggest blessings in life, because let's say if we are like a manipulative person, and every single breathing human being is, so there is no question about it. And many times we just don't know, we cannot tell, not only because we don't want to confront this, but sometimes other people are not honest with us, or we simply don't have such close relationships to reflect this back at us. And there comes a time when this Uranus holds the mirror and we catch ourselves in the act of manipulation or altering the truth or being jealous, being envious, being vengeful, and it just shocks us. But that awareness gives us so much power not to do it anymore, to control this side of us. And that is how we reach clarity, that is how we reach peace, that is how all the murk is decantated, if this word actually exists in English. And that means peaceful and calm waters. Something that once was a murky, swampy lake is now a crystal clear lake full of peace, where the moonlight reflects beautifully on its surface, and something which was so ugly, so distasteful, is now a romantic, spiritual, artistic scenery. The light of the moon reflecting in a lake, how beautiful and divine that is. So this is exactly the deep potential of the Scorpio full moon. Yes, it will take a lot of courage and guts to look at ourselves. It will take a lot of bravery, especially emotional bravery, Mars in the sign of Cancer, to admit that we can also be that which we condemn in others. And it can also feel a little bit disempowering, but in the most positive sense, because how easily do we judge others? How easily do we criticize others? How easily can we spot the mistakes and, let's say, hidden intentions in the words of others, for example, on social media? And that is power. That makes us feel powerful. That makes us feel that we hold more truth than the other person. But if we catch ourselves doing the exact same thing, just in such a perfectly concealed, even artistic manner, that no one would tell that it is the same feeling that truly fuels us from the inside, well, then we lose that power of judgment. We lose the power of toxicity, and we are set free. It's not easy, it's not painless, because it's almost like removing the cancer, the tumor from our souls. Yet, remember my words. What we create with this is that scene where the moonlight reflects on a pristine, crystal clear lake. And even the sight of that inspires calm, inspires peace, and it inspires infinite magic and serenity. And ultimately, because all of these planets in the sign of Taurus are standing across from the super full moon in Scorpio, whatever we discover, whatever light of truth is going to reach us, our awareness, it will transform, it will change our value systems, perhaps our self-worth, perhaps our goals and aspirations regarding values, regarding everything that we love, regarding even matters of love and romance. And even though this is not an easy transformation, it is quite a shocking one. Remember the potential, the crystal clear lake reflecting the light of the moon. And chances are this energy is going to be extremely, again, shocking, Uranus, in matters of love and partnerships, especially for those people who are in a well-established bond. Because if the relationship is only composed on compromises, mutual, survival, very superficial respect, it's almost like having a colleague in life and not really someone who you're in love with, well, this energy will reflect that. And the partners are gonna be faced with making a choice. Now, Scorpio is also an extremely sexual energy, and if we combine that with the symbolism of secrets, infidelities can just reach daylight. Secrets regarding infidelity, betrayal, flirting with this person, with that person, etc. This can also just pop to the surface in a second in a most unexpected way, and that will definitely challenge the relationship. But naturally, this energy has a good quality to it as well, because those surprises can be quite pleasant as well. No one says it has to be doom and gloom. Let's say there is a long-term relationship and both partners are going through a very tough time, especially with this world economy stuff, with the COVID, with, the change of times. And both of the partners were focused on how to survive and how to cope. And of course, this led to a lot of tension. But this Scorpio full moon can simply reveal how much they truly love each other. It can reveal all the hard times that they went through in the past. And when they confront with this very beautiful truth about their loyalty, about how much they endured together and nothing could split them apart, even when times were even more challenging than this one, you can imagine that will consolidate the relationship and add a psychological, emotional, and even spiritual fortitude to their bond, to their relationship. So it can be quite positive as well. And another nuance of the Scorpio full moon, well, since it is so powerful, and there is that faint trine with Mars, which I said means courage, means having the guts to own up to a secret, for example, we can see a lot of people coming out of the closet from a sexually orientation perspective, or in any other matter which might have caused them shame or this desire to hide it from other people. So regardless of how we look at this energy, it is a powerful emotional release. That is why it's so very linked with the truth. And last but not least, another really positive expression of this energy can be something quite personal, of course. As I said, Scorpio is also a financial part of the sky, among many other things. So a full moon, a super full moon, harvesting the fruits of your labor, harvesting the fruits of your sacrifices, regenerating yourself financially, manifesting something that you have been working on, let's say from a psychological and spiritual and metaphysical perspective, for a long time now. So there is a very prosperous potential to this energy as well, because the T-square that the moon holds with Uranus along with all the other planets in Taurus and Saturn in the sign of Aquarius, it can mean a massive breakthrough where this unique windfall that Uranus provides can give you the opportunity to break all the old patterns, limitations, the obstacles that might be even holding you bound for years. Especially if you've been constant and, let's say, fixated in a healthy way, of course, on something that you wanted to accomplish. Now, even though from a strictly personal perspective, this energy, as I said, can be quite positive, can be quite helpful, it can be a big manifestation, but from a global perspective, well, chances are people are definitely going to rebel. They're definitely going to once again demand their rights, demand their freedom, demand to have much more pleasure in their lives. And this might not directly have anything to do with the full moon. This might have a lot to do with dark moon Lilith in the sign of Taurus, where both Mercury and Venus, and then of course later on in May even the Sun, will meet with dark moon Lilith in the sky. And basically this energy can be translated into, well, regardless of who am I psychologically, spiritually, or my identity, my social role, etc., I'm a living, breathing, earthly being right now. A living, breathing being who has 5 senses which need to be stimulated in order to feel alive. So that means give the Caesar what is rightfully the Caesar's. And especially if we have everything that we need inside of us, for example, thirst for life, for adventure, for all of the pleasures, small and big pleasures of life, and it is like some kind of restrictions, as in rules and regulations which prevent us from doing that, well, you can imagine that people are definitely going to express their dissatisfaction and demand their rights. And Dark Moon Lilith is very tricky because she doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive. This is not like the energy we had in Aries just a couple of weeks ago. Dark Moon Lilith has a very special kind of wisdom to her, where she might just choose sabotage, fighting through a certain kind of sabotage. And in this financial sector, like the sign of Taurus, people will fight through not supporting big organizations, supermarkets, not buying, not spending money, starving that which they perceive as the source of their limitations. They might refuse to go to work, they might refuse to be any part of it, and without the economic support of people, the big collective, well, nothing is gonna work anymore. So this might mean strikes, this might mean, crying out your truth by withdrawing your support. Since at the very end of the week, Pluto is officially going to go retrograde, it means that its symbolism is much more embodied, it turns inward. So that means more power for the individual. And reclaiming one's power can take the shape and form of inaction, no longer playing the game, no longer being in the economic chain, and by this inaction, so to speak, the message is gonna be way more impactful than just going out on the streets with violence and protesting and etc. And also towards the very end of the week, Venus and Mercury in the sign of Taurus are going to be sextiling this retrograde Pluto. And sextile means inspired action. Pluto is change and transformation. So this is where people will take whatever they want to change, for example, value system, what they buy, what they support economically, how they spend their money, what they attribute worth and value to, if they express this inner transformation in a very physical manner, well, that has to change everything globally. Even if this takes place just locally, for example, people just simply refusing to go to supermarkets or, big chains, etc., and just going to farmers, local people who grow plants, who grow vegetables, who provide services, etc. And they just really, really, really focus and concentrate very intensely on the local, supporting their own. Well, you can imagine that will have a massive impact. And it will force a more global change. And at the same time, this can be perfectly true internationally, where replace individual with a country, with a nation. And if they withdraw their support, their help, they financing something bigger, and they focus on their own inner economy and significantly reduce export, that will also have a very powerful change as well. And even though all of this sounds so very chaotic, it sounds like we are really hitting the deep water. But if you look at the bigger picture, if we look at what Uranus is attempting to do until 2026, well, it can lead to something really, really good and positive. For example, Uranus's technology, which translated literally, in this day and age, it can mean robots. Robots replacing people in so very many industries and so very many areas of life. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean anything bad or like a massive existential crisis. Quite the opposite. People will not be required to sacrifice their time to, do certain tasks, to work for industries, etc. And this can lead to a global income where every living, breathing human being will have a minimal income for the simple reason that they're alive and they're part of the human collective. And robots will do everything that human beings used to sacrifice their time for, which means greater freedom, which means that social inequality due to economic reasons, financial background is not gonna be as predominant. It also means healing a lot of generations who suffered financial, social, professional, even inequality in their lives. It means that technology and our science, Uranus, can actually work for us in our greatest good and not against us, not to hinder us, not to shock us in a bad way. And it can also mean that we can use technology not to destroy Mother Earth, but to care for her, to nurture her, to help her heal, to make things easier for her, to protect ourselves from, for example, calamities, earth changes, in a very harmonious way, where we are also safe, but we don't change, alter, and hurt nature by protecting ourselves. So basically, this is the big picture. So I do believe with all my heart that this leads to a much, much better, a much more harmonious, a much more freedom-oriented future. And this fits in so well with the sign of Aquarius. Now, if we have to express our individuality, who it is that we truly are, our uniqueness, well, we need freedom for that. We need time to process. We need time to basically live life. We need time to gather all these unique experiences, to connect to other people, to travel, to philosophize, to express our artistic expression without competition and without, gatekeepers, without everything that makes life so hard right now. But of course, this is the big picture, so right now, next week, we're still in the most chaotic, turbulent part of this energy. But as I always say, yes, Uranus is unexpected, it can trigger shock surprises, let's say losses, let's say accidents. But it's also a quantum energy because every second of the future holds a potential for something really good to happen. Chaos also creates, it doesn't just destroy. And a more philosophical view of this, while Uranus, as I said, it is truth, it is almost absolute truth. And whenever an accident or something unfortunate occurs, well, that is because whatever it was or however it happened was not aligned with the truth, and that moment of truth came, and that's why the accident played out the way it did. And let me just give you an example. If a couple break up, if it just hits instantly, well, that is just the moment of truth, that is just the moment of confrontation. The psychological energies, the frustration, or whatever led to the conflict and the breakup was there already, and it wasn't created at the moment of the breakup, so it was the truth that caused this. Or if someone slips or someone trips, well, the crack or the spillage was there already, and it was this moment of truth which caused the reaction. Or let's just look at a bigger picture, an earthquake or a volcano. Well, this is our planet. This is how Mother Nature always used to change basically the tectonic plates. This is how continents, mountains were formed, so it is nothing new. So we shouldn't really take it personally. We shouldn't really look at it as some kind of punishment or the wrath of nature. It is part of existence itself. It is part of living on planet Earth. It is part of being physically incarnated here. And last but not least, I would like to finish this horoscope with a really beautiful and very creative energy where Venus and Mercury in the sign of Taurus both hold sextile with Neptune from the sign of Pisces. And this is artistic inspiration, this is beauty, this is the spirit and the divine being here with us, even in body, even within our physical and everyday lives. It is also Venus sextiling Neptune. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, so it is the power of love, where the power of love can change so very many things, even physically. Under this energy, really beautiful, romantic, fated relationships can be born. It can also be just a fantasy, of course. It can also just be having a really, really wonderful day when you feel so very beautiful and you turn heads. But that kind of adds to your self-worth, so it's really, really good regardless of how we look at it. And Mercury sextiling Neptune, that can be dreams, it can be inspiration, it can be creativity, it can be the most beautiful music, art, sound, communication, poetry, writing. So if you have any hobbies like this, or if you are an artist or someone who speaks publicly or someone who sings or someone who kind of weaves beauty in all shapes and forms, please express yourself because there is a blessing in this energy. Express it, share it, be proud of it, and just allow it to elevate you. Well, this concludes your horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. Even though things are going to be a little bit shaky, globally speaking, a Scorpio full moon has always a magical potential. So meditate, do a ritual, for example. It is really, really good for cleansing, purification, regeneration, healing, etc. It is really good to just have conversations with your soul, with the divine, with the universe. It is also equally beneficial if you just embrace your sexual energies, because that is also Scorpio. It has a different kind of magic to it. And ultimately, the sign of Scorpio, with its ruling planet Pluto being so powerful next week, it is alchemy. You can transmute anything, any feeling, any disadvantage, any hurt or pain into power. Well, thank you again. Wish everyone a magical week. Until next time, bye for now.